What we into this week.
Toss a coin to your witcher, O Valley of Plenty.
Welcome back to What We Into. This is our second annual holiday dump. This is the time of year that we look back over Christmas and New Year's and we say, wow, we watched a lot of shit. Let's have a discussion about it. Take it away, Rob.
Okay. Well, I guess we can start at the top of the pile with your favorite show, The Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian. Wasn't my favorite show of the year.
Oh, okay.
I said, was it? And it was a question mark. And yes,
Yes,
it was.
Okay. Well,
mostly because you disliked it so much that I had to pick up the slack.
Once again, that's inaccurate because I didn't dislike it.
Don't want to make Baby Yoda cry here.
I didn't dislike it so much. I disliked it, but because of a lot of valid issues with it.
Did you? Okay. What? Yeah. Let's talk about your issues real quick. What did you hate the most?
There we go again. There you go, trying to white-splain my feelings on the shit. No, I never said. I never said that. Yeah, but it had problems, like the problems with making statements that we can track through the canon and the lore and be like, well, that's not true, or like, is that true? All the way to even to this last episode where.
So besides the helmets, what other canon was questionable for you?
Well, that whole thing about in the last episode they say something like, "Oh, Mandalorian isn't a race;
it's a creed."
It's a creed, and I was like, "What?" Like they're just. I mean, they've just taken so much blatant, I guess, license, which is I guess they can do that, but I don't know. The minute the minute they made the series about the youngling and not about the Mandalorian.
You mean the end of the first episode?
Yeah. So it went off the rails right there for me.
Yeah.
And it took. Don't get me wrong. It's not a bad series. They put the money in. They put the time in. It's shot real well. It has all, but it was too short.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I mean, other than that, the last episode I think was the longest one in the entire season.
A whopping 43 minutes, or
right?
Something like that. Yeah.
But you saw how much of a fucking difference 43 minutes
it
makes.
Does. Yeah.
Like, that last episode was so much more compelling than anything I'd seen in the previous 7 episodes.
So you like the last episode best?
The best, but it was still problematic. Yeah.
I think they also, when they did this show, they had a somewhat limited budget, right?
It didn't seem like it.
Yeah, and I think that's to their credit. I don't think they could go in and make every episode as effects heavy as that last episode. So I think that was all factored in, and that's why I think you had some of the episodes that felt a little almost more more filler than others. Because it's sort of like in that episode where they're on that prison ship, for example. There's some space stuff that was happening, but for the most part, they're running around corridors for the whole episode. All you need is one hallway, and you just keep filming it from different angles, right?
Okay.
I liked it a lot. I agree with you. I think it was short. What is going on?
I'm blowing up. Your wife is texting me. That's what it is.
Of course she is. She's saying lasagna in the fridge. Boom.
I love that one.
That's the name of this episode. Lasagna in the fridge, y'all.
She's always like, Rob, have you eaten something today? I'm like, yeah, actually, Laurel, mostly.
Actually, yes, I have.
Yeah, she's always trying to feed me, which any woman who's like, look, I want to put something in your mouth. I'm like, girl?
Dude, that's my wife, homie.
Buy me a drink.
That is my wife.
And I love her for that.
This is my wife.
But I feel like that's her Middle Eastern roots at work there. Like, a lot of my best friends' moms who are from the Middle East, they love when you come to their house being like, yo, you eat? All right, and I'm going to make you something. I'm like, no, I got you. And they'll just go and start heating stuff up for you. I fucking love that.
Yeah, because they're trying to get rid of all that food in their fridge.
I know, as a motherfucker who never has food in his fridge.
My dad's the exact same way. You realize, you go over to my dad's house, he's like, hey, what you hungry? You got some food for you.
Yeah. Your dad is the...
Did you say yogurt? I got some.
Yeah, so, yeah.
So, the Clone Wars, how much do you think that The Mandalorian is setting up this Clone Wars Season 7 that's coming in February?
You're talking about the animated Clone
Yes,
Wars.
the animated Clone Wars.
Well, if they do it right, because the Mandalorian for me felt a lot like, and I mentioned this when it first started, felt a lot like a live action cartoon. It felt like, and because of its length, it definitely felt more like like a live action episode of the Clone Wars.
Right.
So if they're smart, and based on how they left it off with that general, I know that guy's name.
Moff Gideon.
Who Esposito is playing.
Right.
That is a character from Clone Wars, I'm almost positive. And he's using a Mandalorian blade. The blade that he uses to cut himself out of that ship,
that darksaber,
is the blade that was forged by the only Mandalorian to ever be Force sensitive and be trained as a Jedi.
That's right.
So
I forget his name. It's like Terra. I'll find it here in a second.
No, it's something. I literally heard it the other day. I can't remember.
Well, it was last seen in possession of Bo-Katan during the Star Wars Rebels show. And that was given to her by Sabine Wren. Bo-Katan was, I think, the one of the rulers of Mandalore. Leading into the Clone Wars, though, they knew for a long time that Season 7, or the remainder of that, was always supposed to be about the Siege of Mandalore. Like the end of Revenge of the Sith. Like the big thing that we miss is the siege of the Mandalorian planet. So I don't think it was entirely an accident that we were going to get Season 7 of the Clone Wars, which is going to focus all on Mandalore, the Siege of Mandalore, and then this show that takes place a few years after that, The Mandalorian. And so then you have Moff Gideon with his saber that's it's like having like the Mandalorian relic. It's like their most important, one of their most important, if weapons are their religion, and this is like their most important weapon. So it's like a religious artifact.
Well, it's the weapon that the guy who forged it used to unite all the warring clans of Mandalore, which are a race, despite what the last episode of Mandalorian says.
Well, they were a race. That's what the whole planet was taken over by the Empire when the Republic turned into the Empire.
You don't stop being a race once your land is taken. You don't stop being African when you're taken from Africa.
But if you're all killed, you do. If it's all taken over by the Nazis,
they're
and
not
eradicated.
all killed. Clearly, they're not all killed. That's sort of the thing.
But I think the point of the episode was that anybody could become a Mandalorian if you're trained. With that creed.
Don't say that Mandalorians isn't a race. It's a creed, because that makes it seem like, oh wait, they're not a race. They're just people who get found and then trained in this way of being a Mandalorian, and that's how you become a Mandalorian. And that's not, in fact, the truth. The Mandalorians were a race. They were on par as powerful as the Jedis, because that's how the Empire contracted them and used them to battle Jedi. That's how them and the Jedis, the reason that they're able to use jetpacks and fly and all that cool shit that he learns. Oh, did you learn the Rising Phoenix? Yes, I trained it as a boy. All that was in order to fight the Jedis.
Yeah. Back in the day, yeah.
So, yeah, for them to sort of just, and that's where I took a lot of issue with the show, is that they were taking things that had already been established as not fact and then trying to make them fact, and then subverting them by being like, no living creature has ever seen me without my helmet. Well, I'm not alive. Boop, bitty, boop, boop, boop.
Yeah.
Boop.
That was surprising. I think
you didn't see that shit coming from like the very first moment they say, "Oh man, we never take our helmets off." I saw that. I actually said it on the show. I was like, all they're using that was for a moment that you will then see him take the helmet off later, and they'll use it to subvert this thing that they've already established. Which, why even say it? Because we have established canon where we know that's not the truth. So as I'm sitting here watching it, I'm like, well, that's cool. And if this tracks as like a live action cartoon akin to the Clone Wars, which we've talked about it being like the linchpin, sinew, tissue, interconnecting a lot of these movies together, then you can't say that shit to me and have me just be like, oh, okay, sure, I guess that makes sense now. We were just in the last episode, we were talking about telling us a Star Wars story that fucking makes sense. You can't start the telling me a new story in the universe and have it start not making sense right from the top. I'm gonna have issues, and that's
but your issues are not any of that stuff really. Your issues are that it's all Baby Yoda.
If
Baby Yoda wasn't in there, you would put up with these slight adjustments to the canon.
Probably,
yeah, you would. I know you would.
Probably,
yeah. You don't like the sacchariness of the show.
I don't like it. They continue like basically now. Oh, and they do this thing where like they fit the creed to then he has to take care of this. Well, this is the Mandalorian way. You found it, right? And now he's a foundling, and that's a part of the culture. So now you're his father. I was like, well, how is that true? Because we know that Boba Fett's not a Mandalorian, but we see him clone himself and then take care of it. We don't know. Like they're just establishing these things now. Like that seems just arbitrary because
I think for you they just needed to give it a different name. They needed to give it like the Death Watch from Mandalore. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Because then there would have been an answer to all these semantic issues that you have with the canon.
I don't think they're semantic. I think they're concrete. I think you can't say one thing and then we can go back and literally look at episodes going the opposite of what you're trying to establish in this new show.
Yeah,
I just can't. I'm just like, what? But I can literally go back and play you 13 episodes of Clone Wars where Mandalorians are taking their helmets off willy-nilly, established well before this. And anyway.
Are you open to an explanation in this coming Clone Wars season 7?
I don't know how they're going to.
Right,
I don't know.
Are you
open
open to that?
I think I'm open to anything making sense when
right.
you're telling me a cogent story that I kind of have a know about of, you know.
I mean, I guess this is the problem with Star Wars, and it has been the problem with Star Wars for forever, where like we get into the Empire Strikes Back, and we find at the end of it, after he gets his hand chopped off, that Darth Vader is his dad, and we're like, oh, okay. And we're like, that's a big leap, and it feels very melodramatic, because it is. And then later, but then we go back.
But then they explain it.
Yeah, they explain it, but it was still a retcon. It was never supposed to be that way.
Well, because, he wasn't supposed to kiss his sister and then find out later that that's his sister.
Exactly. Yeah. So all those are retcons, and that's always what Star Wars has done. And I felt like with the sequel series, they used that in a way as an excuse for even worse bad writing. Like they pull it off in the OG trilogy.
They do.
It pulls off, but you still kind of. Even as a kid, I remember going, "Wait a minute, there, you guys."
They pull it off with a little bit of sleight of hand.
Yeah,
because they use the cuteness of the fucking Ewoks in that last movie to sort of subvert the fact that some of this was just, like you said, retcon.
Yeah.
Like for me, I actually really like Return of the Jedi.
Me too.
But for a lot of the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And mostly because the introduction of the Ewoks and sort of their stand against the Empire with like rocks and logs and sticks. They basically getting to do something that like a galaxy's worth of motherfuckers with lasers and like troops couldn't do. That was and this is all after the fact because I love that movie. I think it's probably my favorite, but not because it's the best of all of those.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But like even now, like I'm watching these new ones and I'm like, yeah.
Well, there's also no moment in like the new movie that Rey has that like that beginning sequence with Jabba the Hutt. You know what I mean? And Luke becomes this hero and blows up Jabba's thing.
There
is
no iconic
friends.
moments from any of these movies.
There really isn't.
So I mean, unless you could probably count that flipping over the TIE fighter and catching it with the
which they blew in the preview.
Yeah,
it's actually better in the preview because the music's better. You know what I mean? That moment in the movie, like you don't have the music that backs it up. Whatever. Anyways, are you excited for the Clone Wars season 7?
We'll see when it gets here.
But you liked it. You liked that show.
Clone Wars and Rebels. I feel like were the best Star Wars property in the last decade.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. All right, let's move along.
Move along.
Well, we got to talk about the biggest thing in the last 2 weeks, and that's The Witcher. Homie.
Biggest for you.
Well, not just for me, for a lot of the planet.
I liked it a lot.
A lot of. Oh, so you actually finished it?
Yeah, we finished it for sure. Yeah.
Okay. And thoughts?
It's a strange bird.
In what way?
Well,
I mean, because you sat through 8 seasons of fucking Game of Thrones, so.
Yeah.
How strange?
It's different. It's not to me necessarily better or worse than Game of Thrones. I think there's elements of Game of Thrones that's a lot better than The Witcher, and elements of The Witcher that's a lot better than Game of Thrones.
You want to speak on something?
We ended up watching The Witcher twice, you know, because we put it on and started wrapping gifts, and that was through like the holiday, yeah, and found ourselves very quickly in like episode 6, but like, whoa, what's going on? And I played The Witcher 3, so there's some elements of it that I knew, but still was very much lost. So we went back and watched the whole thing again.
You and Laura.
Yeah, so I think part of the reason why it's the most popular show on Netflix is because everybody was wrapping gifts this whole season while watching it, and then went back and watched it again. So it's got those double hits.
See, I already hear you sort of disqualifying how much better this show was than Game of Thrones. So I'm gonna jump in right here and sort of take because I went back and started watching. Not only did I go and watch this show, I watched it three times now.
Right.
but I actually started playing the game again because I wanted to see if the political intrigue that is so tied up in so much of the series was as prevalent in the game, and it was.
Oh, pause that real quick because it says in this link right here, The Witcher is the most in-demand show in the world, according to Parrot Analytics, surpassing Disney Plus's The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I think I've been saying this. I literally think I've been telling you this.
I haven't heard it once from you.
Okay, fire. So, it's one of these things where I sat down and watched it the first day it came out. Actually, right after we saw Star Wars. Because we were supposed to record that day, and I ended up missing because I had gone home instead of going to sleep. I started watching The Witcher, and got about halfway through the season.
Because basically, we were in Star Wars, and like Witcher came out.
Yeah. It was literally the 20th. It came out on the 20th, and Star Wars was what I think that.
No.
Star Wars was
The Witcher was out on the 18th. It was out. It was out that day that we went to go see Star Wars.
No, it was out that night.
That night, yes.
It was out that night, and so I think it was the 19th that it came out. Either way, I went home that night after watching Star Wars and jumped into watching The Witcher and watched half of the season before passing out to it. It's that good,
right?
And basically, and I remember when we had been talking about it on the show prior to it coming out. I had a lot of things to say about it. I was like, I didn't like his wig. I wasn't sure about I didn't like
it. Was
CGI.
questionable.
It was a lot of sus. I had a lot of sus. Remember, I was saying I was cautiously optimistic. And all I can say is that all the things that I had fears about them having, or all the things I had issues about when I was watching some of these trailers, they must have heard me specifically and dealt with them. And all of it was taken care of. The CGI wasn't bad, and granted, I think they did this show cheaply, and not cheaply in the sense of like, oh, the costumes look weak, and cheaply in the fact that they didn't have the same budget nearly as Game of Thrones by a lot probably. But they still managed to get a very high quality product out of the money that they spent. Because I feel like they made this. They made a really great fantasy property for really cheap.
I also think like even after seeing this show and seeing Henry Cavill's performance, looking at pictures of him now with that wig.
Yep.
Like I understand. I think his performance adds so much to the show because he's fully dedicated to this show.
Well, I come to find out that he's actually really a big fan of the games,
right? And it shows.
And it definitely shows because he nailed what that character is, or who that character is in a lot, and not even in some of his lines, and some of the just sounds that he would make. Like Geralt, like is a very a lot of grunts, a lot of like. Audible things that don't have actual words,
right?
And he sort of does like that really, really well.
The sword fighting is fantastic in this.
It's top notch. Like and like the battle sequences aren't as monolithic as say Game of Thrones are. They clearly don't have tens, hundreds of extras. They're clearly just like maybe a score of people, and they're shooting it real tight. But even the battle sequence that they do are really dope. There's that one in particular I'm thinking about where the dude's on the battlefield. He removes his helmet, which you never do, and he's shouting some order, and then turns around and catches a fucking arrow right in the eye, and you're like, oh!
What was there anything that you did not like about the show? We got Dopplers. We got
honestly, it's so faithful to the game. No, because I went back and, like I said, I started playing the game again, and as I'm going through it now, I'm like, wow, they really did due diligence. Like even some of the way the shots, especially like the monster shot, the shot where he's fighting the Striga. There are little shots from that where they take, because so much of the game is so cinematic, like cut sequences. Even the way like the camera work is when you're going like into a monster den or whatever, and how you're moving the camera, like even the way that the camera that when you're controlling it as the player in the game, would you use it? There were shots that the show kind of mirrored that and gave you like instances of where like you're looking like a character is in sunlight or like walking like you're looking into basically light, and then a character will walk through that light in a way to you to get to your face and things like that. They did due diligence in making the show homage the game, And I think that's heavily why it was.
And to be honest, that's what made me really latch onto it in the very first episode.
Yes.
Where I was like,
that looks just like the game.
They're giving shout outs to gamers here.
Yes.
That if you're a gamer will you actually get it.
That's you need a potion right now.
Yes.
You need a potion here, player.
A potion really subtly, and you're like, yeah, exactly. But in the first episode, the part that got me was like, you need to get yourself some new clothes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, that's
right out of
the first thing you do in an RPG.
Yep.
Is you get your clothes, then you get your sword.
Yep. It for me. I will go out on a limb right now and say it's probably one of the best fantasy properties I've seen in a long time. And we talked about this in the previous episode. One of the big things for me was about the representation of how in this world you have African American characters who don't need any explanation for being in this world. They just are. I'm a black elf. My family was decimated by your grandmother. I'm sorry. Word. Blah blah blah. I know it already has even connotations of things of race in it, based on how they cast it. But like that wasn't how that character was supposed to be. It isn't like explained like, oh, they're from the southern portion of
they're from this
or whatever.
Island of blah 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 blah. And look how they wear almost African inspired garb.
It's literally the only fantasy I've seen like growing like in my whole life that starts from a plane of being like, here's a representation of people that look like you in a fantasy world that doesn't require an explanation or for them to be servants or brutes or some sort of like negative stereotype that has been sort of reinforced in society.
Yeah, I think it was always known that Geralt would be a white dude.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
yeah.
I'm not arguing for Geralt being a brown.
That's
guy.
not what I'm saying. I'm just going through the characters and who could have been. Suri, who played by Freya Allan,
had to be a white girl.
Yennefer, Anya,
could have been anything.
Chilatra. She kind of could have been anything, right?
She could have been anything.
She could have been anything. That they could have given that main witch role to. I liked her story the best. I liked
story. That's because that's a story you don't get in The Witcher.
Right.
You don't get Yennefer's backstory. You don't get how she gets to be one of the most powerful mages in this world of The Witchers.
Right.
So even that was fascinating. The other thing that's really interesting about this show is that it jumps around in time a lot.
Oh yeah.
And without telling you, there are no like
you can't wrap gifts and watch this show.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Time.
Like it's another reason. Like you can't. Even in each episode, you jump around in time back and forth a lot without really any sort of like indication. They're like, okay, like how like in other properties they'll be like 10 years ago, 5 months ago. Like they'll give you like little borders. No, it just goes back.
They just expect you to pay attention.
They expect you to pay attention.
And kind of be in question for a good portion of the series until you get little bits of information that you go, oh, that's this. Well, now I see that is this person as a young god.
Yes.
That's her daughter. Yes. Okay.
And this is what I was telling Phil, because I was like, when people were asking me about the show, I was like, the show is really good. However, you have to watch it. It's not one of these things where you can just put it on and have it in the background.
It does not hold your hand.
Each thing that you learn is gonna, in the same way that the game works. The game does that exact same thing, where like you will find a quest item early, and then be meandering around for 2.5 hours in the game, and then lo and behold, that quest item that you had picked up that you didn't think was this innocuous thing ends up being like the linchpin for this one quest that you happen to have just walked into.
Right.
And so the show does a really good job of like you said, tipping its cap to the gamer, but also being compelling enough to sort of like bring the layman's in. I feel like the popularity isn't just from gamers who showed up and watched this. I think it has direct. I think it could easily be for lack of a better term, the new Game of Thrones.
I think that's what people want it to be, and that's the comparison people are already doing.
Definitely doesn't take itself as seriously, I feel like, as Game of Thrones does.
No, and I think that's where a lot of the humor, because his character is legitimately hilarious funny and has some funny like.
Well, that's a game. Like I'm like little interactions he'll say something under his breath to an NPC, and you're like, oh, that's funny, Geralt. But like this is what it goes to, and I think this is why, like, and we reported this in the last episode. because of the series, the game has gotten such a resurgence in viewership and playship.
You're playing it through
I'm
again.
playing it through again. And so are a lot of other people. Apparently, it broke all the records on stream over the last few weeks.
Right. So we'll definitely be getting Witcher 4.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or another Witcher of some sort.
Well, I reported on that last week during the Star Wars episode, is that based off of the popularity of the series so far, the author of the book series has given CD Projekt Red the go-ahead, basically, to make more Witcher video games. So we are definitely getting more Witcher video games. The question is just when.
We're definitely getting another season of this as well.
Oh, yeah.
They've already announced it.
Yeah.
What do you want most out of season 2?
I honestly, I don't. I just want them to keep telling me a good story. Because what's interesting, I'm going back to when I'm playing the game now, and I thought you would have probably asked this question about it. Is how different is the game than the show, or where do they line up?
I can't even tell. The reason I didn't ask that question is I really can't tell nor remember, because I played the game.
Right.
Can't remember much at all.
Which is why I started playing again, because I wanted to see if, like I said, the political intrigue lined up. And what you come to realize is that the game takes place. I mean, I'd have to extrapolate, but I'd say probably 10, maybe 7 to 10 years after the events of at least that first season. And I don't know, I don't know if they're gonna continue this, how much of the story they're gonna continue to tell. They'll definitely go forward in telling that the continuation of that story. So in the game, Ciri you've already had Ciri as your ward. You've trained her. She's ostensibly a Witcher, but without having gone through the trial of grass, the mutation trial that makes them a Witchers. So she basically, by the time you're playing the game, you're looking for Ciri again, because she has reappeared. Mm-hmm. At the start of the Witcher 3, she has disappeared and has been gone for some time, and you're tracking down Yennefer, because Yennefer she wrote you a letter saying, I need to find you because of this emergency. So in the start of the Witcher 3, the game, you're tracking down Yennefer, who is riding through a battlefield. But and so the show is basically sort of the preamble. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming it must. I don't know, because I don't know the events of the first 2 previous Witcher games.
Right.
I don't know if the show lines up with those at all. But I know that as of now, the show takes place right before that third Witcher game.
Are you going to start using the law of surprise to pay me back debts?
No, I ain't trying to know babies. I don't want no kids. Don't you put that evil on me.
No, you do it to me. I'd end up with your kids. That's how it would work.
Oh, okay, then yes. I think
exactly.
the law. Well, I think you should claim the law of surprise every time.
Law of surprise claimed right here.
Say, I mean, matter of fact, I still owe you for those Star Wars tickets.
Law of surprise.
All right. What do I know that have that I don't know I have?
Well, that was the only thing that I got a little confused about.
Which is an actual thing. That's actually in the game. The law of surprise.
Yes, but with the case of Ciri. Mm-hmm. Like, does he have to take the baby, or can he just claim some other thing that this person... Like, let's just say that this person finds $5, and he's like, law of surprise, I want that $5. Like, why does it have to be the kid?
I think it's sort of the specific
I watched an episode like 2 times, and I was like, I still don't get it.
I think it's I don't know, it's a weird law that people sort of adhere to. It's like, I'll take whatever you... Because it's a wording thing, I think. I'll take whatever it is that you have that you know that you don't. Which is like, basically, I'll take whatever the greatest thing that you could have that you don't know that you have.
Right.
And what could be greater than, I guess, a human life?
I'll tell you what. A loot.
A loot, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Law of surprise. I want your loot that you just bought. I want it.
Mean...
If I'm going to do the bard thing, let's be honest, because I'm not the Witcher. You're probably the Witcher. Okay. I'll be the bard. I get it.
I mean, just by height alone, dude. I don't think you can have really a short Witcher. I mean, okay, you probably could. I just think the confidence. I don't think you'd get a lot of work.
I'm the one who wrote the song. Okay.
All right.
Beginning of last episode.
Toss a coin.
Toss a blunt.
Oh, my bad.
To your casters, O Stone listeners. O Stone listeners.
Oh, is that what that was?
Cast a blunt to your casters. That'd be great if we were just walking down the street. People were just, hey, there's the casters. Just throwing blunts. Ow!
You fucking him in the eye, dude.
I mean, thank you, but
yeah, I was eating parfait.
Cast a parfait. Toss a parfait to your podcasters.
Although I was reading an article that sort of brings into question the strategy that Netflix employed to sort of sell, and I don't think basically how the Mandalorian sort of parsed out each episode a week to sort of garner the attention. Like the Witcher was even more popular than the Mandalorian,
right?
Which has been out longer, and you got it all in one lump sum,
right?
Now there's an argument to be made to say that Netflix kind of squandered the opportunity to really kind of like bolster this hit a little bit if they'd have made this sort of like a weekly thing. And I'm of the argument to be like, I'm glad they did it the way they did, because although they definitely could have garnered the same sort of like viewership, not viewership, but definitely viewership, but sort of like buzzworthy for a little bit longer,
right?
Because I feel like with now that it's been released, people can just like watch it and forget it until season 2 drops, basically. Whereas like for the Mandalorian, we've been literally talking about that motherfucker for as long as it's been out.
Yeah, which is not that long. It's only been about a month and a half.
Yeah, it's only been a month.
It's funny because Mandalorian I would have preferred all at once. Mm-hmm. It's an easier story to follow.
Same.
They're short episodes. Give it to me all at once. I'll pound through it in roughly 3 hours.
Same.
The Witcher, because the episodes are more dense, I probably could have watched them each episode twice a week. Mm-hmm. Once when it comes out, and then once right before the next episode comes out, which is how I did a lot of the Watchmen stuff, which we'll talk about here in a second. But I do think it is smart because the show is so dense and so complicated and jumps around in time that to be able to like jump in one episode, immediately jump into the next,
and then go back and forth between.
I think that was really useful because the biggest props that I have that I can give to the show is that it's complicated writing with multiple time jumps, and it doesn't dumb it down ever for you. And I think that's awesome.
And is it successful in keeping even sort of a layman up? Like, could you follow it? I mean,
I consider myself a layman. I played The Witcher 3 and put 100 hours into it, and there's
also a writer and
but I don't know if I could have told you what the story was going into this TV show. I don't know if I could have remembered a lot of things. I know that Geralt's the silver guy, and he's got 2 swords, and he kills monsters. One's a silver sword that kills monsters. The other one is for humans, and there's some mages, and they're sexy, and he takes some baths, and that's a lot of what the show is. But it's heightened, even intellectually, to a really great place. So they could have dumbed it down, is my point. They could have made it a very simple show about a monster hunter going around, and he has some interactions with some sexy ladies, and he takes his shirt off and gets into a bath. But I feel like whoever was making the show and Henry Cavill were like, no, let's really focus on the intrigue of this. Game of Thrones came. Let's learn from those mistakes. Let's take some things from that show too, because that show did do a lot of things quite successfully.
Yes, I definitely will agree with that.
The only thing I kind of wanted more from The Witcher is I wanted more monsters. I know they're in here.
Yes.
But I could have used 1 or 2 more episodes with some monster.
I agree, because I had the same initial feeling about it as well, which is, I guess, what pushed me back to playing it again, because I wanted to see, like, how much does the monster aspect of it play into it. And it really is kind of the way the show shows it to you. Like, yes, you are a monster hunter. Yes, that's what you were created to do. But so much of that game isn't about hunting monsters unless you actually physically go and, like, I'm going to take a Witcher contract where I'm hunting a monster. But even some of those Witcher contracts ended up not being monsters at all. It ended up being some sort of, like, familial intrigue where you're tracking down a lost loved one or the trinket of a lost loved one that then you find out, oh, well, this person got murdered because they were in love with this person. Or, like, it was more about sort of the intrigue of interpersonal stuff than it was about the monster. Like, the monster aspect is definitely there because that's what you are, but the initial thing is you're trying to find Ciri. That's your main through line in The Witcher 3.
Right.
Is she showed back up? You haven't seen her in a long time, and you're
early 20-something,
and she's being chased by
the Wild Hunt.
The Wild Hunt, this enemy that is like fictional, but also like.
Who get a shout out in this show? By the way.
They do. Which is why I was like, I'm excited about the second season because I want to. It feels like they're telling you the Wild Hunt story, but early.
Right. They're starting that out.
They're starting
like that would
now.
be like a season 3 thing.
Right.
Which is cool.
Which is really cool.
Do you want? Because we're going to wrap it up here for Witcher in a second, but do you want season 2 structurally to have the same kind of time jumps that season 1 employed?
I don't think they're necessary, but if they're done the same way that they were in this first season, I don't see why they can't be an effective tool of telling the story.
Yeah, because I think this was very successful the way they did with season 1. But part of me could also watch a more linear version of this show, like the first episode we get that Kikimora monster that is killed almost immediately.
Yeah.
I would love to watch an episode where he is on the hunt for one of these monsters. He picks up his little bounty. He gets information about it, and then he goes into the woods to try to hunt it and find it. Even if it's just a straightforward monster, which it very rarely is. That to me is an interesting premise, and I could do a little more, because that's kind of what the Mandalorian is, anyways. Mandalorian was supposed to be now, and at the end of Mandalorian, he's now re-accepted into the guild. He is a bounty hunter again, and he's just got Baby Yoda by his side, and he's supposed to explore Baby Yoda's origins. You know, anyway. Rob hates it.
Yeah. But all in all, I'd say if you haven't seen it or started to see it, you should probably go ahead and give yourself a vacation, because it's a good series. It's a really good fantasy series.
All right, well, let's move along in our holiday dump episode.
What?
Move along.
Watchmen.
Oh, you want to go? I was going to say Watchmen the last and jump into His Dark Materials.
I don't have a lot to say about His Dark Materials. I can sum it up pretty.
I don't have a lot to say about it either. We can.
Oh yeah, because you watched it, right?
I did. I saw it all the way through.
So let's do it really quick. What did you think?
I liked it. I mean, for someone who doesn't know that property in the slightest, I think they did a lot of really things well that kept me sort of intrigued and wanting to know more about this world. It's a parallel world story.
Yeah.
But starting from a place of where the world that we get to know right off the top is one that has, demons, which are ostensibly, magical creatures that are linked to your soul that do things for you. It'd be like a familiar. It'd be like a witch's familiar. But everybody has them. Everybody in the world has them. It's intriguing. I was surprised by this one. Because I didn't initially know if I was gonna be still as interested as I was after that first episode, based on like how much they shoot you a lot of jargon from this world that you're just expected to just be, like if you're a fan. I feel like if you were, like I said when I reviewed it initially, if you're a fan of this book, these books, then I think you're gonna really like this show. They do a really kind of exquisite job with it.
I think that's for sure. If you're a fan of the books, you're
gonna really like this,
for sure. But I don't know anybody who read these books.
Me either. Me either. But as a layman's coming to it completely like knowing nothing, I was intrigued and sort of like pulled along for the ride of the main character, which is a little girl.
I was there for Roger, man, all the way until the end.
That was the hard one for me, bro. Yeah. I was like, no, not. I hated seeing Roger go like that.
But that's what makes good stories to me, and that's why, for me, this show,
because I'll be really don't give a shit about kids. You know that. Yeah. The only kids I care about are yours.
Obviously,
I don't give a shit.
You don't even like Baby Yoda.
It's not Baby Yoda.
Heart of ice. Heart of ice. This man.
But seeing Roger go, I was like, man, that is a tough one right there.
The actor's name is Llewyn Lloyd.
Didn't like seeing Roger go, bro. At least not like that. Like. Not like that. No, I feel like this is the end of the Matrix. Not like this.
Roger, no!
Yeah, I had a Roger no moment, bro.
Yeah, he was in Taboo, that TV show, that Tom Hardy TV show, 2017. He was in Fortitude, The Alienist, the Aeronauts.
This cast was really kind of something special.
Yeah, because the other girl who plays Lyra is really good, too. What's her name? Daphne Keane?
X2.
X-Men 2.
Or not X-Men 2, X12. Like, X21. That's it.
So I have two questions. One,
yes.
Would you, if you had the option of being connected to a demon,
yes,
you would?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I would.
Really? You wouldn't want a part of you that is sentient that you could be like, hey, man, go get me a beer.
But it can't go too far. Like, you're always together.
They can go to the fucking fridge.
They can go to the fridge, but what happens when you want a moment of intimacy?
It's you. It doesn't matter. It's like another, what do crazy people have?
Yeah, but if I could turn myself off sometimes to do other things that I don't want to be later guilty
I don't know.
about.
I feel like if I had a
I'm just thinking about masturbating, okay?
Yeah, I'm just about to, can I finish? Let me finish.
Please don't
finish.
I was
going to say, I'm going to finish. I'm going to finish.
Take a napkin, please. Here's a tissue.
No, I'm saying, if I have something that's connected to my soul that can watch me masturbate that doesn't judge me, do it? I would, yeah. I'd be like, yo. Does it look huge? Looks huge, right?
Looks big to me, but I am a ferret. So, what would your demon be?
I don't know. I like that in this world that demons can change their shape until a certain age. Like the demons go through maturity the same way like you go through maturity, and up until that point, they can shapeshift.
I think you'd have like an aardvark.
Fucking hard
like
rock?
a hard shell on the outside, but
Nah,
a soft
fam.
heart. In
You
the
know what?
middle.
I think mine would probably closer to what your boy McAfee had.
Oh yeah. You'd have the leopard.
I'd have a fucking
You'd
leopard.
have the fucking.
But it'd be black. It'd be a panther. It'd be a fucking Wakanda forever. Go fuck yourself. Yeah, it'd be a panther. It'd be a fucking panther.
Wakanda.
Wakanda.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I'd want one. Because what happens if it does something stupid and runs out and gets hit by a car? Boom, you're dead too.
Yeah, I don't think that's. Yeah, I guess that does.
That's what happened to Roger. They sever the thing.
Yeah, but no, you have to sever the connection. But yeah, you definitely. I don't think you can. You can't kill them by hitting them with like a fucking car. They actually created a machine that allowed them to separate you from your demon, which then killed them.
Yeah, but in a prior episode, I think he smashes a bird or something or kills something.
Well, you can hurt them. You can hurt a demon. You can hurt. You can be hurt by it. Yeah, you can be hurt.
That's what I'm saying.
And vice versa, but not dead. You wouldn't die from it.
I don't need to put out more options into this world
of pain?
of ways to hurt me.
Oh, well.
You know what I mean?
Well, you just haven't been black long enough.
Yeah, I'd have a white panther. Snow leopard.
Yeah, you should. Anyway, I'm gonna make a bad joke, but go ahead.
So I give the show props for killing off Roger. That was surprising, even though my sisters had already ruined that for me. They'd already
Wait, they already told you?
Yeah, they'd spoiled
Wait,
it.
then you didn't. Oh, wait, they had seen it. They hadn't read it.
They'd seen it.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. But I do admit, I fell asleep in the last 5 minutes. What happens at the very, very end of the last episode after we find out Roger's dead? Dad, James McAvoy leaves, and then I'm like, then I passed out.
Well,
they Roger, and I fell asleep crying.
Well, they kind of find out that you remember how they. I feel like it was the episode before they tell you that there's a boy that's also connected to Lyra that's important to the joint.
Yeah.
You remember on the other side, there's the world that Lyra comes from.
Oh, right. The other boy, yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
well,
he was going towards the rift, right?
Right.
And he enters it. That's
Yes.
right. I did see that. Never mind.
Yes.
I was just
So,
right on that.
there you go.
Right in that. I'm awake. I'm asleep.
There you go.
Awake,
Yeah.
I'm
So
asleep.
you didn't miss much. That's pretty much what happens. He actually crosses over, and Lyra crosses over. Like they both
Yes.
do one of these things where she steps through to his world, and he's now gone through. We can extrapolate, I guess, to hers.
Ruth Wilson is a beast in this.
Ruth. Oh, right. Yeah, she plays Lyra's mom.
Yes.
She's a bad motherfucker.
Yeah.
And I want to. What else? I feel like I've seen her in something else, but she looks exactly like this other actress.
Let's see here. I'll look it up
She looks
here.
exactly like what's her face. You know what she looks like? She looks like Emily Blunt to me.
Yeah. Like a younger Emily, but she's more specific. She's a character actress.
Yeah, she's definitely a character actress.
She was in, let's see, blah, blah, blah. True Things About Me, which is coming up.
Don't know.
The Affair. She was in that 2014-2019. Lucifer as Alice Morgan for 9 years.
Wait. Lucifer the show?
Yeah.
As who?
I'm sorry, Luther.
Oh, that's who that bitch
Yeah.
is. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. She's a motherfucking beast.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. It was fucking with me this whole time. I was like, why do I know her face? She's Luther's love interest in that show.
Yeah. She was in The Lone Ranger as well, which you may be thinking of.
No, I'm not.
Well, I know how much you like that movie.
No, you're wrong.
Well, you're just a huge Johnny Depp fan.
Oh, I am a huge Johnny Depp fan.
You're a huge Johnny Depp fan. You're also a huge vintage Lone Ranger
that's not true.
fan.
No, that's
if you
not
go
true.
to his house, he's got all of these. It's incredible. It's huge.
You know what
amassed a
would be
huge
incredible
amount.
is the story of how the Lone Ranger came to be the Lone Ranger, which is the story of Bass Reeves, which is the character, not even a character, a real person
From Watchmen.
From
Is that true? Is Bass
Reeves.
Reeves is the Lone Ranger?
That's how we get the Lone Ranger. The Lone Ranger is based off of the actual man who lived, a black Oklahoma U.S. Marshal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Move along.
What did you think about the Watchmen season finale?
The Watchmen,
Which ends with
season
that
finale,
Bass Reeves
or
sort of.
okay, the season finale was brilliant.
Yeah.
The series, it's the best. It was the best written show on television this year.
I think it's
This year, 2019. There was no
Better
better
than The
writing.
Witcher.
Better than The Witcher. Yeah, better than The Witcher. Yes, by a lot.
I think all of these shows are actually well written, and including The Mandalorian. I think The Mandalorian is very subtle, but still well written. They know, unlike the new Star Wars movies, not to do too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think The Watchmen is definitely the best written movie that addresses any kind of identity politics, any kind of racism, any kind of white supremacy, any of those sort of topical issues. None of these other shows really
not at all
directly address any of that.
Well, that goes to, and that's akin.
Not that they should. But
Well, it's interesting because that goes akin to Alan Moore's original book, The Watchmen, that dealt with the topical issue of Vietnam and the impending Cold War that had U.S. and the USSR sort of pointing nuclear missiles, like the Doomsday. So, which that's actually one of the things I was into this week was finishing the comic book Doomsday Clock.
Right.
Which I've spoken on about in...
I heard rumors about this.
Wait, you heard rumors about it?
Well, I heard the Doomsday Clock comic book series was gearing up for basically Dr. Manhattan was going to verse Superman.
Yeah.
And you end up not getting a fight. You get up getting a discussion.
Yeah.
And Superman's basically like, what about that lady over there or something like that? What about... did a lady did a lady break your heart? And he's like, yeah, she did.
It's
she
a
did
little
hurt
bit
me.
more complicated than that, but yeah. What Doomsday Clock did or has done is it kind of it low key cinches or puts a parenthetical around a lot of things that were happening in the DC universe that were kind of unexplainable.
Right.
One of these things was Wally West gets who is basically Kid Flash. Kid Flash gets erased from existence, and nobody knows why.
Okay.
Like all his friends forget about him. It's one of the best sort of DC timeline stories that they've made in a while. It permeates so much of the DC world. Like it happens after Flashpoint, and Flashpoint is one of the premier DC stories that they've told about things. So basically, they're
going to make a movie out of Flashpoint, probably.
They did.
They made
an animated. They made an animated.
Okay.
One.
I thought they were. I thought they were taking Flashpoint and taking inspiration from that to make the Flash movie that's supposed to eventually be coming out from DC.
Maybe, hopefully.
Maybe. Okay.
So basically, Dr. Manhattan, after the events of the Watchmen movie or the Watchmen book, Dr. Manhattan leaves our universe.
Right.
Yeah. After he kills Rorschach, and he's like, I'm gonna leave for other places. He goes to Mars. Or he goes to Mars and does a fuck around thing or whatever, and then he leaves our universe, at least by Doomsday Clock.
Right.
And the universe he ends up in is Superman's universe, or what ends up being the meta Earth, the Earth that because it's complicated because it gets into like the multiverse.
Okay.
But in the multiverse, there is one Earth that is sort of like Earth Prime. It's where like all the branching versions of Earth all kind of stem from this one.
Okay.
And that's the one that Manhattan ends up on, and it's also the one that he ends up on with Superman.
Right.
So what Manhattan ends up doing, he runs an experiment. He's like, I'm going to see what happens if I affect these things. So he starts changing things in the past to sort of affect how Superman will be in the future.
Okay.
And so the premise of
Superman's like, I'm not falling for it. I'm always a good guy no matter what.
Well, that's basically what happens.
Yeah.
So the premise of Doomsday Clock is Dr. Manhattan can't see, his whole thing is I can see the visions of the future or whatever.
The present and the past.
And all that stuff. Yeah. I can see everything. And in this one instance, at the very top of the Doomsday Clock story arc, he's like, this many weeks or time, this time from now, the last thing I see is Superman coming towards me, and then nothingness.
Okay.
So he then goes on this quest to figure out if Superman kills him or if he kills everything.
Okay.
And that's Doomsday Clock's trajectory. So you get Dr. Manhattan sort of walking through these places, and he's like, he gets to the moment where he's like, and this is the moment where Superman kills me, and then they get to that moment. You see Dr. Manhattan's, how he talks in these blue boxes, and he goes down to the second that it's supposed to happen.
And Superman's like, aren't you just sad because of a girl?
Basically.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, he's like, why don't you go home and save your world? And he's like,
man,
I get it now.
I wish we had you on our world.
And then Dr. Manhattan basically just resets the metaverse.
Doesn't he kidnap a baby at some point?
Kidnap the baby? No.
Isn't there a baby that gets kidnapped? That's a rumor I heard. That Dr. Manhattan takes a baby towards the end or something?
No, he lets a series of people live because he sees the future of their baby and how it affects someone that Dr. Manhattan loved ends up getting this baby from this couple who are basically a sociopath. It's really a very interesting play on the DC universe, especially using these properties like the Watchmen.
Right. Especially
how fucking ridiculously powerful Dr. Manhattan is as a character, and there's just so much you could do with that character, like how the actual show The Watchmen. I'm jumping back into that.
Right.
How they were able to sort of glean this amazing story out of that character.
What is the story? What is the larger... Because to me, like, I like the show a lot. I think it's a really good show. I think it's one of the best TV shows out there.
Best written, for sure.
Did I like it more than Umbrella Academy? I liked it as much. Did I like it more than Doom Patrol? I liked it as much. I liked it more than The Boys. I liked it as much.
I liked it as much as The Boys, but I liked it better than the rest of those.
Like, Jesus Christ, we had a lot of superhero, like, group.
It's not going to slow down. It's only proliferation based on how well superhero movie like that. What's interesting to me is now I'm thinking about that article that Alan Moore was saying about like a couple weeks ago, and maybe he might have a little bit of a point. But I don't think it's a bad thing that we're getting these stories now, because for so long, I think these stories are necessary in our.
What was his point? He was talking about how kind of the weird. Juvenile,
the proliferation of like juvenile sentiment, basically how comic books are based, or the themes presented in comic books are juvenile at best, and sort of like, he was shitting on it, but in a way that now, as I'm sitting here, kind of thinking about the kind of massive proliferation of content like this, then he might have a point.
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly what he was saying.
I'll look it up here in a second. I want to go over some of these episodes though, because IMDb has all 9 of the episodes listed, and the one that gets the highest rating is the first one, A God Walks Into a Bar.
That's not the first episode.
Isn't it? Episode 1? No?
No, A God Walks Into a Bar?
Yeah. No, you're right.
It's A Bar, and that's her name, Angela A Bar. And I'm pretty sure that's like the second to last one, or, it's not the first episode, no.
The Extraordinary Being, An Almost Religious Awe, Little Fear of Lightning, See How They Fly, She Was Killed by Space Junk, If You Don't Like My Story, Write Your Own, Marital Feats of Comanche Horsemanship.
That's the one.
That's the one. Yeah, that was the first. Okay, so these are out of order. Never mind.
So, yeah.
A God Walks Into A Bar is the highest rated episode, though, followed by This Extraordinary Being.
Well, I think it's the one that you see Manhattan in for the first time in this series.
Yeah, and that sort of sets up the whole story. Because to me, the whole thing's really about, like, him, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't realize that until 3 or 4 or 5 episodes in.
I don't even think we realize that until about 3 or 4. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because it opens with the Tulsa massacre.
That massacre. Yeah. Which is also really, really cool, because the world of the Watchmen is not our world. Mm-hmm. It's just parallel.
Yes,
it could be like Earth 2, Earth whatever.
Right.
In the same way that which
DC
is
why they don't have cell phones and those sorts of things.
Right.
Alternative reality.
Right. It plays into the way that like DC is doing this thing with Crisis on Infinite Earths right now, where they're dealing with other kinds of Earth. What would have been dope is if they could have linked the Watchmen and some of those Crisis on Infinite Earth episodes, Flash or Arrow or one of those universes. But having said all that, it's Do
you think he gave Angela his power at the end?
We don't know. That's why it's such a fucking compellingly written and brilliant show. The last image we see is of her trying to walk on water.
Right.
Based on some shit that he had told her in that very same episode of A God Walks Into a Bar.
Right. So Damien Lindelof, the show creator, said that he's not doing a sequel to this.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that somebody else won't pick it up, but he's not going to do it.
Well, that's
of right now.
That'll be. I mean, that's tough. Whoever does. I think you will see a season 2. I think based on the success and the strong writing from this first episode, I think they're gonna have whoever's gonna, if Old Boy's not gonna come back as the showrunner and helm this, I think whoever's gonna take over has their work cut out for them, because this is, like I said, it was probably the strongest written show on television this year. I've watched a lot of shit,
and I definitely liked the parallels to our present day. Yeah, and I think for me that's the only really kind of disappointment with the show, is that we didn't get a little more. We didn't go into that kind of area of parallel reality. We didn't. It focused more on, and I think it was the right choice, obviously, for the show to focus on Dr. Manhattan and Angela in that sort of situation. That the 7th Cavalry the whole time was really trying to lock Dr. Manhattan down and steal his powers, and that's what Lady True was also trying to do, and she was manipulating them to her own ends. But I just got so invested in those first 2 episodes, learning about the 7th Cavalry and that kind of, and what that had done to the reality of this world, that I kind of wanted to explore more of what those differences were, because I think they were reflecting interestingly on our present reality. So I think I actually started a little more hyped for the show, and then as it ended, was like, yeah, that was really strong, but it didn't quite end as strong as I wanted it to. I think primarily because it just kind of, it's all of this introduction that's our heaters clicking on right now. Do your pipes do that?
No.
They don't pop like
Not
that?
like that.
Boom, boom, boom.
Not like that.
Now imagine that at like 6 a.m.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a horror show.
Yeah, it's a horror show. So you like this, if you had to pick, name your order of preference. Umbrella Academy, Doom Patrol, Watchmen, and The Boys. Which one did you enjoy the most?
That's easy. It go Watchmen, The Boys, Doom Patrol, Umbrella Academy.
Okay. That's close to mine. I think mine is The Boys first, then Watchmen, then Doom Patrol, then Umbrella. And it sounds like I didn't like Umbrella, but I loved Umbrella.
No,
Academy.
Umbrella was strong. Everything on that list is strong, and especially when you're talking about like properties that aren't Marvel or DC and things like that. Well, I guess technically Watchmen is DC, so either way. But like as far as like resonating with me as a viewer, the parallels that it draws, the information that it gives you, even though it's like the fact that the Tulsa riot was something that a lot of Americans, up until watching that episode, didn't know about,
including myself,
was enough to warrant it being the best written show on television this year. That alone,
I think,
because
it's the best
in that week,
show. Yeah,
in that week, like the fact that like, I was reading articles where Americans were like, 1921 Tulsa massacre, the fuck, yeah. So for me, any show that can go outside, any show, especially one that is based out of a comic, graphic novel, source material that can teach a motherfucker something about their actual world, I'm a fucks with it. It's got to be top priority.
I had a problem with the frozen squid at the end.
What about it?
Just a nitpicky little thing.
What, that a frozen squid falling from that high in the air wouldn't go through a motherfucker's hand?
Yep.
That's incorrect. You freeze anything and drop it from, like, hail?
Yeah, hail doesn't go through your hand entirely.
If it's moving fast enough, it can.
Not just with, like, the 65, 75 miles an hour from falling from the sky.
I don't know. Hail goes through houses and car windows and other things. I feel like
it'll mess your roof up. It doesn't go through your roof. It doesn't go through your windshield. It'll crack your windshield.
So
I'm saying, like, it could have. I just didn't. When she holds up there's bones in there, bro. You have 4 carpal bones in your hand, and it shoots through it. And
we don't know the weight of these frozen squids. One.
And there was no other collateral damage? You're telling me, so they hid in, like, a phone booth? That's okay?
Well, yeah, apparently.
It was just that little bit. If she had like, a really... If it had just been bloody. The idea that it shoots right through her hand. I'm like, come on. It's not a lightsaber.
That was the break for you.
It's not a bullet.
That was the break for you? Not the fact that a big blue motherfucker was walking around turning people into paste?
That was the break, and therefore the entire show is no good to me.
That's
my Baby Yoda. That's my Baby Yoda on this show. It's done.
That's truly sad.
No, it was just that little bit. I just felt like it was like, it just kind of took me out of the reality. It's like, come on, it's not... And then she never gets hit by another one? Like, one falls, and that's it? Hits her, she doesn't get hit by another one?
Well, it demolishes the thing that she's standing under.
But not a single one hits her again.
You needed to see her get eviscerated?
I needed to see somebody else get hit by one of those things.
Nobody else did, because everyone took cover. Except for the cops. Cops got it.
So I guess it was just one really lucky squid shot. No, you don't see any cops get hit by the squids.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you don't see them. They don't show you it go through their bodies, but exactly. You saw all those cops get decimated by them.
Saw their cars.
So you needed to see people get holes through their bodies for it to be.
It was supposed to be a Gatling gun from the sky, and I didn't quite see the Gatling gun. I saw
destroyed the structure that she was building. The whole structure came down on top of her.
Yeah,
that wasn't Gatling gun enough for you?
I guess that part was, but then later part, I don't know.
Okay,
move along.
Okay, and finally, for our biggest thing that we're going to talk about, Lost in Space Season 2. Just kidding. But we will talk about it.
Is it the biggest thing?
No, it's not. I liked it. I like this show, but I have issues with this show.
I like this show, too. I like this show, but mostly because of issues that are outside of what I normally like. Like, familial, we're all a family, and it's our love that being together.
It's a Disney show. Yeah, it should be on Disney Plus.
It definitely should. That's what I got when I was watching season 2. I was like, This shit is mad more. This is a lot more saccharine than one I was expecting it to be, and two than I feel like I needed it to be.
Will Robinson's greatest power is that he believes.
Yeah. And
don't kill that belief for him. He's got to grow up at some time, guys.
I feel like the other thing for me was the inclusion of other people other than the Robinsons.
I agree. Like, we spent the whole first season, and they're not really lost in space at that
They're
point.
They're
just on a planet, but they kind of know they are.
They can talk to the people who they're like, hey, we're going to wait for you guys, but you better hurry up because we got to get out of some shit's fucked up.
You got 42 minutes.
You got 42 minutes.
That's the other problem I have. This
back.
show really loves to give time limits.
It also really has this final destination-y way of, like, addressing new, like one problem will arise, and then in this, like, the most fantastical way possible, they get into the most dire straits.
Yeah.
Like, you watched the whole thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, the thing with the rust.
Yeah.
They get to the planet, and then this thing is...
I had a problem. I was like, we're on a planet again? You're sending one of your best dudes down into a well?
I was like, you motherfuckers been on this planet for 7 months, and y'all don't...
Nothing
there wasn't this problem before they show up now?
It's almost like they brought it with them.
Yeah, exactly. It almost seemed like these guys were like the catalyst for some of the more ridiculous Final Destination type perils.
There's some suspect writing. Like, the end of the first season, the episode... Don's character can't like work on the wire thing because suddenly his eyes get like
the fog the defogger from his helmet has gotten into his eyes.
You got a good memory.
Well, I literally I watched that when I went back to watch season 2. I watched I usually watch the last episode.
Right? Okay, we did the same thing then. Yeah. And I was like, that's some bullshit writing. My eyes are better now.
And then they spend like a good 20 minutes trying to get him to cry to flush his eyes. And then there's that whole bit where they can't get him to cry, and then old boy starts talking about his family in the most sincere way, and that's how he starts crying.
And his eyes flush. Now, normally your eyes flush when you get something in them, period.
Jesus. Yeah, right?
You know? I was like... What kind of broken-ass eyes you got, man?
I feel like I really liked the first season because for me, they were taking some chances with a really old property that everyone kind of knew, and it hit a lot of the Lost in Space notes. You had the Danger Will Robinson, you had this family, you had this robot. It hit a lot of the checkpoints,
but they're not lost in space.
And therein lies the rub, because the second season, it's called Lost in Space, but they are literally not lost in space. They know where they're going, they know where they are, and they just have to figure out a way to get there.
Yeah.
Alpha Centauri, we need the robot to get there because apparently this is some new technology. Like, I don't know. It's
like they spent 2 seasons getting to where the movie went in like the first 5 minutes. Right. The 1998 movie, which I think is great, by the way.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it's really good. It's got Gary Oldman in it.
Oldman
deals with time travel.
Yeah, it's good.
But do we just want Lost in Space to be kind of like a family version of Star Trek, where every episode they go to a different?
No, I don't want to be a family version of Star Trek. I don't mind the family aspect. I think the family aspect of it is actually probably one of the stronger portions of it. Mm-hmm. I found myself actually rooting for them. Like, I was like, oh, come on.
Well, I think you can have the family. I want them to be lost, though.
We've taken our fair shots at giving it a lot of shit.
Right.
One of the things I think that the show does really well is the sense of heightened action. Mm-hmm. Like the moments when they were like the moment when they're in that little like not conveyor, like the little modular spaceship thing.
Yeah.
And he goes out to save her, and they get detached from the main thing.
Yeah.
And then there's that scene where they're careening, like they lose each other, and they do a really good job of making the dire elements of the show seem really dire.
Oh yeah.
Because there were points where I was like, I know this character is gonna survive, but I'm not sure in this moment. How are they gonna?
Yeah.
He's gonna die here.
Yeah.
And then they don't die, and I'm like, oh, I
okay,
guess, all right, I guess
it has a big budget. It's a big budget TV show.
They spend like, I feel like the budget on this is 2 to 3 times bigger than it was on The Witcher.
So you'll watch the season 3 for this?
I think I'll have to. I found enjoyment in it. Although I feel like the second season wasn't as successful, it's still fair.
Yeah.
Because I still care about these individual characters.
I feel oddly exactly the same way of the second season as I feel of the first one, which is I like all the family stuff. Mm-hmm. I want you guys to be lost in space. I want that thing from the movie, which is you guys have a button, and when you press it, it shoots you off into space somewhere.
Right.
And you don't know where you are, and you're trying to get back home.
Well, I think
And then everything that happens is an obstacle.
I think it's because this season suffered because of the inclusion of everybody else.
Yeah.
I think if they had spent this season trying to get back to everybody else, I think we would have had exactly what you're probably describing, like that sort of sense of like, we are lost in space. How the fuck do we, get through this? But they literally had all the means to do what they needed. They had a team of motherfuckers. They weren't lost really in space at all.
Yeah.
They lost in space assumes that they were lost. They were lost in space for the first 30 minutes of the first episode.
Yeah.
And then after that, not so much lost in space. Well, they found everybody.
And those first 2 episodes of season 2 are great. They're like on a planet. They turn into a ship. They sail to like some lightning thing.
Yeah, that was cool.
Something happens. Then they're up into space, and then oh my gosh, the Resolute's there. What?
Right. They waited. Holy shit. Okay.
All right.
It's abandoned. Oh, I thought
that's
they had...
the other thing. The abandoned thing was sketchy.
Well,
even Daisy was like.
I thought that was a good. I was like, okay, it's abandoned. Great. Now you got to figure out where everyone went. Now you can be lost in space. And then like within 2 minutes of that, they were like, boop. Oh, we had to evacuate because of this thing that got let out.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what? Oh fuck! So everybody's coming back?
Not to mention that they're like riding in a ship into dock on the Resolute. They're looking outside of windows.
Uh-huh.
They can see into this place, and they don't see a single person. And nobody's like, "Oh, by the way, I haven't seen anybody on this Resolute."
Well, there's a lot of things about this show that I was like, what? Like in the last episode of the first season, where the other robot shows up on the ship, and because they're trying to get the engine right, and it's attached to the bottom of the thing that the girls are in,
right,
and then the robot basically like shoulder checks it to pick up the module,
right.
And nobody sees that?
Yeah.
Because then Will's robot flips and then like starts defending the family, knocks the thing that's necessary for the thing that everybody needs, knocks it into like a corridor space or whatever, and we completely forget about it.
A crate fell on top of it. Okay.
And we don't ask, oh shit, was that attached to the bottom of the?
Just ignore that
Just
pile
ignore
of
that
crates
giant.
over there.
I'm like, you motherfuckers are supposed to be scientists.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, isn't part of science observation? You ain't see that shit?
I do like how they're so focused on the science elements of it, though.
Well, the science elements are saving graces for it, I feel like without at least some semblance of like actual science, I would have written the show completely the fuck off.
Yes.
I feel like,
you
especially when you're asking me to suspend a lot of disbelief.
Let's talk about Dr. Smith real quick.
Parker Posey.
Parker Posey. Piper Posey. Parker Posey.
Woo!
Versus Gary Oldman.
Well, Gary was a bad motherfucker. We know that.
Yeah.
Parker is equally as a bad motherfucker, but it's an interesting take on this character.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting take on this character. I don't know if it's a successful take on this character.
Yeah. Yet? He's still holding out? Or do you believe that it's not at this point?
I think it's not at this point. I think the first season was a very good sort of one-off for the character, sort of giving us a new take on who Dr. Smith is. Mm-hmm. I think this season has leaned a little too heavily on
how good she's trying to be.
How good she is.
Yeah.
Well, how good Parker Posey is as an actress.
Oh.
I don't think they're giving her. I don't think the writing is really supporting what she's doing with the character.
It's almost like they didn't know what to do with her towards the end of this season.
Well, it's almost like they didn't plan to have her meet up with everybody else. It's almost like the family was supposed to be lost in space with her for a selected amount of time, and that would make sense that this sort of manipulation could happen, like how she manipulates getting let out in the first place.
Yeah.
All of that, I was like, oh, that tracks.
That's cool, yeah.
And then once they get to meet up with everybody, this sort of manipulation to become like a good person in society, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I like her character, but it's like at the end when Don.
But I think I like her character because of who Parker Posey is, not because of.
Look at Parker. She's just likable.
She's a bad motherfucker.
Because when the dad's like, "Hey, go tell them, warn them,"
and she actually does,
and she tries,
and then he doesn't believe her, but then in the very next breath, she flips on them,
right?
And I found like they were almost too reckless in their like forgiveness of her. They were like, "Yo, we know for a fact you did X, Y, Z, whatever," and she's like, "Well, prove it." And I get that portion of it, but I'm like, y'all ain't got no documentation. You're like, yo, we had her locked up for 7 months. You can look at the logs and be like, well, why'd you have her locked up? Like, nobody tries.
Yeah.
She put that one dude in a coma.
Right.
The girl, the one of the Robinsons find out. She's like, I know you put this motherfucker
Judy.
in a coma, and then you don't try to like get her like
no Penny, not Judy.
Penny.
Penny.
She's like, you don't try to get her like locked the fuck up. You're like, yo, I know you did something to this dude. I can't prove it. And then you go about the thing. She threatens her. She's like, yo, curiosity killed the cat. And you know
I'm just here to explain everything. That she has also the burden of I'm going to explain everything I'm doing to you. Like you were a super bad guy.
Conniving. You're
conniving. You don't explain
you don't
all
have
of your
to.
stuff.
That's
you don't
not
have
necessary. Yeah, it makes some leaps in this second season that I like. As I'm watching it, I'm swallowing hard, being like, let's just get to the family shit.
Yeah.
And you know what? It may be that I'm getting soft in my old age, and it was around the holiday time, so I let a lot of that family shit kind of wash over me to
just
let
not the Baby Yoda wash.
Yeah.
You're not getting
no,
the,
it's not because I'm
not
not calling
the love
it.
for the Baby Yoda.
It's called a youngling. That motherfucker's a youngling. He's not Baby Yoda. When you call him Baby Yoda, you give him motherfuckers a real bad interpretation, thinking that that's a Yoda from a younger. Don't do it.
Okay, you don't know.
Youngling.
You don't know. It could be a clone of Yoda.
Youngling. That's the term.
How funny would it be if it turned out to actually be a clone of Yoda?
If it actually was a clone of Yoda, I would make a retraction. Okay. I'd be the first person to be like, I made a mistake.
Got it.
But until then, that motherfucker is not Baby Yoda. All right, I'm sorry. I got worked up. I'm sorry for yelling.
Move along.
So we have not really done like a catch up. What we into? Again, we're running out of time. But anything else you want to talk about? You know, because I have one thing that I was into that was super big. But I'm gonna let you.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
All right. Well, I'm gonna try to keep it pretty quickly. I'm gonna go real quick in the vein.
Okay.
Night Flyers. It's a George R. Martin,
Yes.
basically sci-fi. It's kind of in the same vein as Lost in Space. I would be interested to hear your thoughts on it. I found myself enjoying it. It's kind of tropey. It does a lot of the same kind of mistakes trope-wise that Game of Thrones does that I have issues with. But it also, while it is tropey, there are elements of it that are kind of new and interesting that they're kind of twisting in the genre that I found compelling enough to watch the all that season. So I'd say Night Flyers.
Yeah, I watched the first 2 episodes and just couldn't really get into it. I did like the moment where one of the scientists was like, we're going out to find aliens that clearly don't want us to find them. If they did, they would have contacted us.
I'd say keep going. Those first couple episodes were a bit.
It gets better?
It depends. I don't know. It got better for me. I don't know if it'll get better for you.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking from my own personal experiences that those first couple episodes I wasn't as into it as I could have been, but I stayed with it and found there was definitely moments where I was like, ugh, this is definitely a George R. Martin type shit. But like I said, they do some interesting. They take what is a typical like sci-fi trope, especially when you're dealing with like people on a ship that is fixed and that kind of thing. They do some interesting things with the science parts of it that I think are worth noting. The Expanse season 4, this new season of Expanse.
Is that fully out right now?
It's fully out right
okay.
now. It's also in the same vein. It's good. They do in the same way that Lost in Space does a really good job of giving you the sort of in the feelings of the intense feelings of like what it would be to be careening around in fucking space. Mm-hmm. They do a good job of doing that as well. The heightened sense of attention from being a spacefarer, but they do it in a more practical way than I think Lost in Space does it. Like what they do in the Expanse, you could see being like viable. Like it could honestly be doing. We could be doing this in space right now.
This is an Amazon Prime as well. So if you have Amazon Prime, mom and dad, watch The Expanse. I need to get into it.
You should.
The problem I was never into
it was some of the best writing for a while.
Yeah, because Laurel, my wife, read all the books and like does not like the direction the TV show took in the first 2 episodes.
First 2 episodes?
She's seen the whole series.
Okay.
The whole first season. I think. I don't think she's seen it past that.
Okay.
But so every time I start to get into it, she's like, I don't want to watch this. So I have a hard time.
Okay.
I need to sit down and start pounding it just by myself.
I for a long time I would say when it was the first, especially in the first 2 seasons, I would say the writing suffers a little bit in the 3rd season, but it's come back around in this 4th season. It's good. It has some of the. It had some of the. You remember we were talking about like socio-political things, the way that Watchmen was kind of dealing. It was dealing with that in a way that you could see the future. You could see the future of the world if for instance, we were a spacefaring. Like if tomorrow we woke up tomorrow and we were a spacefaring species.
Yeah.
A lot of what transpires in the Expanse, I could definitely see going down like in that, where we would have these concentric rings of power based on how far we were from Earth and who gets preferential treatment and who doesn't based on, I was born in space, or well, I was born on Earth, so I'm better than you. Bleh. You know,
is Thomas Jane throughout all 4 seasons?
He is throughout all 4 seasons, but he comes and goes.
Okay.
Like there's some episodes where he's the focus, he is the guy, but by the time you get to around season 4, he's one of the tertiary characters. He basically appears as in this guy's brain. He's been disassembled by this proto molecule, this big bad.
Okay.
And then basically uploaded because it's this molecule that has been shot into. If you don't know the premise, it's this molecule that's been shot from another solar system has ended up in ours, and it defies all laws of physics. It's alive, but it's not. It remakes things, but it does. And basically, the civilization that made it made these rings to combat this bigher bad threat that that we don't know about, that you're kind of finding out piece by piece as you go along through the series. And now Thomas Jane is directly connected to both this old entity thing and connected to this guy, the new kid, who is basically the captain of the ship of misfits, ostensibly.
Got it.
It's
okay.
good.
Yeah.
It's really good. Casting is solid, and they got really 4 good seasons.
The only thing I was really into, other than what we've talked about this entire episode, is Parasite.
Oh, yeah.
The Bong Joon-ho movie.
It was really well received this year. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, so I'll give you a spoiler-free introduction to it. It's Korean. Bong Joon-ho did The Host, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. If you have not seen The Host, and I know you haven't.
Wait, no, I think I have. Is this the one with, like, a fish or some sort of weird monster thing happens, and it's like a dad trying to save his daughter or son from it?
It's a family story.
I have seen it.
Family story monster movie.
It's dope.
It's dope. It's really good.
It's weird, but it's dope.
It's better than the Snowpiercer. If you watch Snowpiercer, if you watch Snowpiercer with Chris Evans, Captain America, and you were like, I like it, but it's not great. The Host, I think, is better. Parasite is interesting for its social commentary.
Yeah, that's what
it's making a very direct social suggestion. That's super simple. And I'm not going to give away what it is, but just watch it, because essentially the plot generally is a best friend comes and he says, "Hey, there's a job that you should do. You're going to have to fake that you are a teacher, but I know that you can do that for this rich family."
That's basically the premise of School of Rock.
Kind of, yeah. It's like that, but not a. I mean, this is funny, but there's a tension that underlines all this. So this guy goes and he gets a job, right? And he's part of a family, and they're a family of con people. And that's all I'm going to tell you. And so it's about this poor family of con artists. I started watching it. Yeah. Oh, you did?
I did, but I was watching it without subtitles.
You started farting too, man. Yeah, holy cow!
No, don't you even? Oof. Don't you even? You've been crop dusting me since like Thanksgiving. Oof. So I've been bubbled up right here for the last 2 hours.
Tiny
with you.
Studio here.
It's not that tiny. It's pretty huge.
But watch Parasite. It is one of the best movies of the year.
Of the year, okay.
Oh yeah, for sure. One of my top 3 movies of the year, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also started watching again Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and found that with the understanding of what the movie is and where it's going, I enjoy it more. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got 2 comments. So what else you got? And we can move on to comments.
See. I have Harley Quinn, the animated joint on the DC network.
Okay.
It's an R-rated animation starring Harley Quinn.
This is leading up to Birds of Prey, the fantabulous emancipation. I
don't know if
it's
leading up to anything. I don't think it's leading up to anything. I think it's a standalone piece because it's only, I want to say, 8 episodes, and they're 22-minute little hits.
Yeah.
But it's rated R. Like, they're using expletives. And
cool.
And I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure if cool. That I'm bringing it up. I'm into it because I like that Harley Quinn is getting her own sort of thing. I like that it's R-rated. I just don't think the writing serves.
Okay.
But maybe that's just me. Maybe we don't need an R-rated animation about a villain like this. I don't know. I find myself watching it and enjoying it in spurts.
Okay.
But I don't know if the overall thing is gonna last. Like I think I think it'll have one season and it'll be done.
Holy shit! Alan Tudyk is the Joker.
Yeah, the cast is fucking great.
Yeah.
Jason
Alexander.
Boardman. Yeah. Let's see. Who else is
Chris
in this?
Maloney as Commissioner Gordon.
Who else is in this?
Juan Carlo Esposito as everyone every
goddamn Juan Carlo, baby.
He's Lex Luthor. So they is he white facing it? Is he a white Lex Luthor?
I'm assuming because Lex Luthor's a white guy. So.
I don't know. Comic books can do anything they want. You know.
Yeah, but it's animation, so
right. So he's white facing it. I'm offended.
How are you gonna white face if you're not using your actual face?
I know it's just a voice. I get it. It's a joke.
White voicing it would have been more apt.
Wanda Sykes.
Yeah,
Queen of Fables.
There's a lot. The cat JB Smooth is in it. There's a lot of talent that they've thrown at this.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I feel like in parts it works, but I don't know. It's basically like if they took Batman the Animated Series, like the show that we used to watch growing up, and made that rated R.
Okay,
that's kind of what it.
Do you think it serves? Because you typically push for R-rated properties.
I think it serves in certain things. I don't think it serves here because this for me it feels like they're based on like the animation style and kind of like the way it's written, like the jokes and stuff, the way like the actual like how it's it feels like it's written for children,
but R.
Cool. Which I think is cool.
That's so 80s.
Yeah, I feel like this. I feel like 8-year-old Rob would have been like, "Oh, this is the fucking shit." Hey guys, don't let your parents know that we're watching this, but this is our shit right here.
What are you guys watching?
Nothing.
Harley Quinn. It's a girl show.
It's a cartoon.
It's not a girl.
It's like My Little Pony.
Don't worry, it's fine.
What?
Are you going to go see on February 7th the fabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, the Birds of Prey movie?
You've asked me this on the show before. And
it's rated R.
Like I said, I don't know. It remains to be seen.
Kathy Yan, female director, support representation.
I do support representation, but I'm only going to support representation if it's good.
Right. Let's see what else she's directed real quick. She did Dead Pigs, According to My Mother, Downriver.
While you're doing that, there's two more things.
Not a lot. Into. She's a pretty
new.
Yeah, I mean
then props for getting property like that, and I hope it's successful for her.
Yeah.
The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel season 3.
Okay.
Phenomenal. If you're not up on that show, you should be. This third season takes itself less seriously than the previous two. It's a lot more funny. It's a lot more humorous, which may detract some people. But for me, I found that the elevation of the humor, especially because this character is a stand-up comedian, even the aspects of her life aren't necessarily as humorous as they might have been in the first couple of seasons. It's still worthy of a sit down and go through. So cool. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel do that. And the last one was a documentary, one that I typically don't fucks with, but I did because this one was fascinating. And it's called Don't Fuck with Cats. It's on Netflix.
Oh, I want to hear about it. So I deliberately didn't watch this because you said don't watch it.
Did I?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I was saying
and
that.
My wife said, "I'm not watching that."
I was saying that to the twins. I was saying that to the twins because I was like, "Yeah, it's kind of dark and kind of fucked up, and it starts really from the murder of cats on YouTube."
Yeah.
So basically, the premise of this documentary is that in whatever date in the aughts, this group on Facebook, this group of people on the internet saw this video of this kid killing 2 cats, and then subsequently formed this group to go down this rabbit hole to basically find this guy.
3 episodes,
and then as it turns out, because they I guess the documentary is basically trying to ask, did they create this problem, or did they escalate a problem by doing what they did? Because they basically just go down a rabbit hole of trying to find the guy who did this, and he basically started to escalate based on their chase,
on their interests
of it, and ultimately he ends up killing a dude.
No shit.
He fucking murders a dude on YouTube.
Whoa.
and sort of like. So the question is like, and they had been chasing for a while, and they've been kind of telling people, hey, they were trying to get like the people involved in different, like, because they tracked him down just by like the shit in the video. They were like, okay, well, there's a carton of smokes on the bed, okay, and there's a poster on the wall, like, and as it turns out, so basically, long story short, they find this guy, and they track him, and and he ends up killing this dude, and they basically help him get caught.
Yeah.
And it sort of tracks like. From the first video all the way through, and like, what was the role that these people played in it, and I don't like I said, I typically don't get down on documentaries like this, but this is it's one to watch, especially because it deals with the shit that like.
So you do recommend watching it?
I do recommend watching it. I recommend watching it because it's because one. It was. Did you know it was a fucking worldwide manhunt? They were hunting him throughout the world.
They never caught me either.
And it was. I
really don't like
cats. I had never heard about it. None of this. No aspect of this story had ever found its way into the zeitgeist of my knowledge.
Do they show you?
They don't
cats?
actually show you. No,
okay,
they don't.
Good.
And I'm glad they did
because
I was like, I was like, I don't want to see this. I don't. But they get close. They give you the impetus like they're going to, but they don't actually.
Okay.
And I don't know if you can still find these videos on YouTube. Because I didn't bother looking, I was just like, yeah, no, I don't need to see that.
Got it.
Shit.
Okay.
But yeah, so like he basically elevated. Like the first couple of videos were cats. Like he basically he killed them and like he killed them by like putting them in a plastic bag and sucking the air out of it.
Why was YouTube allowing these videos on YouTube?
That was the other question. I was like, well, I didn't know. Well, because YouTube is crazy. You can see a lot of fucked up shit on YouTube.
Yeah.
I think the first time I saw a human decapitation was on fucking YouTube.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, no, I'm lying. It was Faces of Death.
Remember.
It was the videos. It was Faces of Death from the 80s.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's where I saw my first decapitation. Thank you, Faces of Death, for that image that will stick with me the rest of my life.
They literally had like volumes
right.
of that shit
in its own section in the video rental store as well.
No shit, you could rent that shit in the video store.
Oh yeah, yeah. Wow. It was like a little,
because it was like the kid's underground secret. It was like having a porno tape. Like, in my career, like, hey, yo, you seen any Faces of Death, dog? Well, I ain't got the tape yet.
I don't even watch. I was like, we could do that as an episode now, but I don't want to see that stuff.
No, I there's a lot of shit. I still haven't seen Two Girls, One Cup.
No, I haven't seen it either.
Like, there's just some shit you can't unsee.
So if you guys want to Google Two Girls, One Cup, go ahead. I'm not doing it.
I mean, if you haven't at this point, kill yourself.
I heard it's a lot of poop. It's a lot of poop and some cups and two girls.
Yeah, I like the premise of it was enough to be like,
nah,
I get it.
I don't need that in my life.
I get it.
What else you got?
No, I think for me that was one of the big ones. There's a bunch of random stuff on here, like a lot of the stuff I've spoken about over the course of our 48 weeks.
Good. Got 2019 out of the way. We're done. Done with 2019. I got some comments though from 2019.
Okay. No, let's sweep up the remnants of 2019 and be done with it. Early in the morning. Comments.
So first comment comes from Stephen Arnold.
Oh, yeah. What up?
He says, hey, guys, long-time listener, first-time caller. Nice.
Nerd.
Sorry I'm behind by probably dozens of episodes. Don't worry. You can catch up. RE The Dark Crystal series. My wife and I were lucky enough to go to that premiere here in New York.
Yeah, they did.
There was a discussion with the producers, director, and writers after the screening, and they told us that everything that was puppet-based on the new series was actual puppets.
Yep.
They spent time developing a mixed CGI and puppet show and discovered it didn't work. Also didn't keep with the original film, which was critical to the Henson organization in the new iteration. They decided that all of the puppet scenes should be entirely puppetry. Mm-hmm. The only CGI in the series was the background. The sets were also all built rather than creating them CGI. Pretty cool to think that they didn't use a computer to accomplish any of the puppetry works, in my opinion. Best, Steven. Thank you, Steven.
Yeah. Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
that was probably one of the best series of 2019.
But the backgrounds, CGI was the background. CGI for the backgrounds,
so it's
actual puppetry.
It's the one thing that you could look at that in that show and be like, there's a seam. Everything else is pretty seamless.
And you said that they talked about a lot of this in the making of, correct? Right?
Yeah. If you watch the documentary of it, they have Henson's daughter, who I guess runs the ship now, and they actually show you the tests that they do, because they were doing like live action and puppetry tests, or like CGI and puppetry tests at the same time. And so they show you their proof of concept for that and how it doesn't work.
Dark Crystal or The Witcher? Which did you like more?
That's a tough one.
Those
I feel like
your best of.
Yeah, I feel like it'd have to be Dark Crystal just based on the amount of different disparate aspects that went into making Dark Crystal. I'd have to give it just on the sheer technical aspects of it. Yes, Witcher has a lot of really good technical stuff in it too, but they built grass and trees and leaves and like the detail that you see in Dark Crystal are some of the more there was some fine artisan that went into making it every element of it.
And except for that guy they forgot to cover up.
Except for that one moment where you're like, I got you.
Yeah. Do you think they'll release like a Cats version of it where they're like, we fixed this?
I mean, they have 10 hours worth of fucking like masterful puppetry and cinematography, and then you only get one instance of them catching the motherfucker in the frame.
I want to see it.
I'll suspend my disbelief. But
I think they just get to that point. They're like, it's fine. It's fine. Just leave.
I think they did because I caught it, but I'm sure like somebody had to have seen that and been like, fuck, it's fine.
It's fine. It's okay.
I can't do is look at another fucking hour of this shit. Let's just call it.
Well, let's end the episode with Dave Correa. He says, "Hey, Larry and Rob.
Cousin Dave!
Was nice hearing Charlotte and Mary on the show. Interim Tin's facts were a nice touch, too. Marissa and I have been watching The Witcher. She's really into the game and also into his muscles. Who isn't, right? He says, I've been lucky enough to visit a couple of Zack Snyder's movie sets during filming, and I have a quick little anecdote about Henry Cavill's muscles. On the set of Batman vs. Superman, we were wandering around the different departments and made our way to the costume department. We were able to look at and touch all of the costume outfits that were used on the film. Ben Affleck's batsuit was absolutely sculpted latex to look like hard muscles and definition, while Henry Cavill's Superman outfit was basically just a pair of tights.
It was actually him.
Fitting long johns, and he is really that big.
Yep.
They had a pretty impressive weight room on set, and I guess that he was there all the time throwing around huge weight.
That's not surprising.
Yeah. Also, in regard, this is really the meat of, I think, the comment. In regard to Terry Gilliam, what he said about Black Panther, have you read up on the hate clickbait? That's in quotes.
The hate clickbait?
Hate clickbait. It's an interesting topic. You kind of brought it up when you were discussing the Martin Scorsese interview. Like how a journalist will use a negative comment to promote an article. It's definitely not a new practice. Negative news sells. But it's interesting how this kind of negative publication is promoting something or someone, Gilliam, who isn't relevant isn't currently relevant. It's a weird form of angry cross promotion that definitely has monetary value.
Well, it definitely works for your boy Joaquin because he's been employing it for a while now.
His entire career is that. I'm going to go on and be grumpy and act like I'm above all this stuff.
Or I'm going to say something that's really sort of out of pocket and crazy or crazy sounding in this one moment that then garners enough attention in that moment that makes people want to go see what I'm involved in.
Yeah, I think the Terry Gilliam thing, because the article that led me to, I had to go, Gilliam, let's see, look at Livewire. That was the original, I think, argument. Anyways, it was very clickbaity when I saw it. Terry Gilliam hates Black Panther. And that was sort of what he was saying, but sort of not what he was saying, too.
It definitely was one of these, like in just now when I was reading that article about Star Wars, and they leave off, Star Wars, what the fuck is it? Rise of Skywalker does something for, The Last Jedi, and it is ER and then ...
Right.
So you have to click. I mean, obviously you figure it's going to be erased.
Right.
But you still are like, all right, let me see what they talk about.
But it is this version of clickbait that, because all of these articles that I pull up right now is Terry Gilliam decries Marvel movies, questions Black Panther. Terry Gilliam trashes Black Panther. It's utter bullshit. Monty Python director Terry Gilliam slashes Marvel's Black Panther. Terry Gilliam, I think people who made Black Panther never went to Africa.
Well, he did say that.
And he said those things. But there's other context, which doesn't necessarily like excuse or
devilify,
make me stop questioning his motivation for specifically pointing out a fictional country in a fictional movie and wondering why it doesn't represent Africa. That doesn't make any sense to me. But there is this sort of like, let's click on this because we are outraged and let's show it right now. Well, you know what I mean?
Well,
that gets views.
It's interesting because one of the things I was into that I didn't bring up on the podcast was I was into the Degenerates season 2, which is basically like a stand-up special.
Oh, I saw that on Netflix, right? Yeah.
And basically every single one of the comics that came out had a joke in which they were basically the punchline was like, I got to be careful what I say up here because any little thing you guys as audience members could misconstrue and take my career away. That's basically like a disclaimer that comedians have to say now.
Right.
I know we've decried this on the show a million times over. I don't want to beat a dead horse in that way. It's 2020 after all. But it just seems like so fucked up and crazy that comedians have to give disclaimers for the job that they do in telling fucking jokes.
Yeah, I think it's messed up.
It's sad.
But it's not necessarily also the worst thing, you know? We're over far on one side of things because we were trying to be overprotective about identity and race politics. And
well, there's a massive. I think
XYZ.
that's part of America's problem is this massive sense, at least now, of overcorrection. Like, if you feel like there's a slight and you bring it to attention, then I think people feel like there's a massive need to go like polar the opposite direction, right, to like fix things. Well, there's no real talk of like median. There's no partisan sort of talk really.
Yeah,
it's either one or the other.
I think I do think it's a good thing. I think we're too far on one. We occasionally go too far on the outrage side sometimes. But the version of it that was lasting just 5 years ago was like 6 years ago was like we weren't far enough, you know. So to me, like it's evening out, even though I'm not saying there's casualties because I don't think that's what it is. I think there's people who are saying dumb things and getting called out for it. The Shane Gillis thing, that was straight up racism.
Fucking stupid.
And it was dumb to like go on a podcast and say all that and think that you're not going to like
get backlash.
Get a backlash to that. You know, I still hear things out. I was at the restaurant the other night and I heard something that like from a friend of mine who is this guy who I can't even give you more information because he may or may not listen to the podcast, but he dropped the N-word and he's not a black dude. And he dropped it and not even reference to black guys. He dropped it to sand N-word.
Oh yeah, no.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
no. Because I was like, oh, did he say like, hey, and then like was it colloquial, but now when you're using it in that way, yeah.
I mean, he's South American, and I'm not going to like put him on blast, but there's this whole... Anyways, identity politics are tricky things. I'm not going to call him out in that moment because I know that he knows better. I also know that he like feels justified in saying that. I know plenty of Mexicans who use the N-word quite openly and see it as a representation
of themselves.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Just don't see it as any issue for them to say it at whatsoever because they think we're a person of color and we're allowed to, even if there's not that much thought in it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I do know I know that very well, actually.
Yeah, so
because I know that I know Mexicans get a pass.
Do they?
They do.
They do. Okay.
Mexicans get a pass. Like there are only a very limited amount of people who are. It is just you are not allowed in any shape, form, or fashion to do it, and it's 90% of them are white guys.
Well, of course.
90% of them are white guys.
Of course.
I mean, you could be any other. I feel like you could be any other. Just don't be a white guy and do it. Like you could be any other, and people, and if a black person hears it, they'll be like, "What? Oh shit! All right. Well, I mean, don't do it again." But okay, because you cad, stop it, get out of here.
I mean,
run along, you scamp.
The pass thing is just so like. I feel even the news and the media give passes. I feel like Terry Gilliam, it was like, we're not, this is something you said that's may be problematic. We're not going to give you a pass because you disliked a movie about Black Panther.
I think it depends on your age. I think if you're an old white guy, you're not getting a pass.
Right.
I think if you're a young white guy and you're doing kind of okay, you're going to get a pass.
John Boyega just got a bunch of shit for saying that he would pound, that his character Finn would pound Ray. Basically, he says, it's not about who she kisses, but who eventually lays the pipe is what he said.
Oh, okay.
In a Twitter comment.
Okay.
And he got kind of
shitted on for it.
Yeah.
Well.
And he came back with
it's
you
a
obviously
joke.
don't know the difference between a fictional world and reality.
Right. It's a fucking joke. So case in point, this is one of the things where I'm like, clearly he's making a joke, but people are going to going to be like, pounded?
You're still a misogynist.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where it's going to go.
And you're an idiot. That was his response back. And then he went on and said, Daisy knows she isn't the character. LOL, so TBH, she doesn't give AF.
Yeah, Yeah.
But
name one thing you're not going to give a fuck about in 2020.
Okay. I'm not going to give a fuck about this sort of clickbait, Haiti stuff as much.
Okay.
Yours is a blackface thing.
Yeah.
Mine is more... But see, I feel like I need to put a critical eye on this because I feel like if John Boyega was a white dude coming out and say... I feel if Oscar Isaac had said this about Daisy...
Nobody would have said shit.
No, I think it's the opposite. I think they would have picked it up on... It would have been bigger.
I disagree. I disagree. I mean, have you seen our president? Like, people don't give a fuck about what a white guy says.
Then why do we care about Terry Gilliam? Why do we care about Martin
Because he's an old white guy, like I said.
So young
white guys
whites
don't get passes.
Young white
guys, depending on how well you're doing, depending on how successful you are, depending on if your movie is selling or not, yeah, you get a pass. But if you're an old white guy, you're Scorsese's, you're Gilliam's, name another white guy.
How old is old? Because I'm 40. I'm getting there.
Motherfucker, you ain't old. That's middle age.
That's middle age. Middle aged white dudes that's context based.
Like, it depends on how successful you are.
Got it. I'm
saying right now, the only motherfuckers not getting passes are old white guys.
Yeah,
old white guys, you don't get passes anymore. If you're 60, 70, 80 years old and you pop off and say some shit, yeah, you're not getting a pass anymore. People are over the racist grandma shit.
But the news is definitely, I think to Dave's point, the news is definitely playing into this stuff and definitely like creating these sort of like creating content with headlines that is hate clickbait.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Do we need to know? Do we need to hear anything about Terry Gilliam and what he said? No. Was any of it interesting? Was any of it surprising?
No, but it gave us a good segment to shit on for a little bit.
Sure,
and that's a news cycle. That's legitimately a news cycle right there. That was the other thing I was into this week. Speaking of news cycles, I can't believe I missed it off the list. The Morning Show.
Oh, I haven't watched it. Is it
if
good?
You're not
Steve
watching
Carell,
the Morning
right?
Show with Steve Carell, Reese Witherspoon, and Jay, what's her face from Friends?
What is it on? I know you're probably coding it.
Yeah, I'm getting it on Cody, but I think it's on Apple TV.
Oh, see, that's the problem. Is I have no access to Apple TV.
I thought one of the family cabal had the.
Nobody
access.
has it because there's that show C that I want to watch.
Yeah, See, which is one of the things I was into from a few weeks back.
I'd love to watch For All Mankind.
It's
like a space joint.
Oh, really?
Servant, which I think is the M. Night Shyamalan one, I believe.
M. Night's got a new show out?
I think so.
Okay. I only caught C, and I just finished the Morning Show. It's good.
Yeah,
it's hella good. It's like it's kind of like a what if the Matt Lauer. What if you could see like the ins and outs of the aftermath of Matt Lauer getting fired from Good Morning America?
Yeah,
it's kind of brilliant.
I had a Matt Lauer moment. We went to the 9/11 museum 2 days after Christmas. It was with the family members, and they wanted to go. And I'd never been. It's not free. It's like $12 a
it's
pop.
not, which I have mad issues.
And I'm like,
with.
That's stupid. This should be 100% free. The city should be supporting this, and it should be. You should not have to pay to get in, or it should be a suggested donation like museums do.
Yep.
So you go in and. The 9/11 museum it's like visiting the Anne Frank Museum. It's not going to be a fun time.
It's not fun. It's a downer.
So they start out really they slowly push you into it though, because there's some fallen I-beams and some destruction, and so there's like one piece of glass. It's the only piece of glass from the whole that survived. But then there's like this other room that you enter, and that's when you get to like where you see the planes crashing into the buildings, and then there's like a video of Matt Lauer, and you see the news, but he's like right there, like you see him in real time discussing. You can tell that they created this part of the museum before the whole Matt Lauer thing came out. Yeah. But he's still there. He's still part of history. Yep. We're not being able to get away from him.
And that's interesting that you bring that up because they do that in the show too.
Oh yeah,
because the show it's not they deal with the California wildfires. They deal with like the different aspects of the news from our world. So they do the bit with when Weinstein gets called in. They have a segment where like Steve Carell's character is like reading the transcript of what Weinstein says, and he has this thing with Aniston where he's like, it's interesting that you get to see a look at the compelling nature of how things went down and the complicity of the people around him. And you have Aniston's character sitting in the chair like, you're so right. Yeah. It's good. It's really okay. It's some of the, I'm not gonna say best writing, but it's writing akin to like Aaron Sorkin, West Wing kind of vibe.
The Newsroom was Aaron Sorkin show,
another one. Yeah.
The other one I want to watch right now is Bombshell. that movie Bombshell.
Oh, right,
with, Margie Robinson, right?
I haven't seen anything really reviews or any Margot Robbie.
Yeah, there you go.
I haven't seen any sort of reviews for it, which I guess is a good thing.
No, it's supposed to be good. It's supposed to be
okay.
Yeah.
Charlize is a bad motherfucker, and I watch anything she's in.
Cool. I'm your host, Lawrence Dial.
And I'm your boy, Rob Carmen Robinson.
Hit us up at whatweinto@gmail.com. Send us a comment. Tell us that we're dumb and boring, or that you love us.
Oh, you can tell that motherfucker is dumb. You can tell me I'm a genius.
If you want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/whatweinto. You can donate $1 a month.
Kick us $1, y'all.
It actually adds up, and it's fantastic.
It helps us go watch movies.
To go see movies or to pay for things. Or if you just want to send us money and say, this is what we want you to use your money for, you can do that too. Or if you want to donate $10,000, you can, and we'll buy a Millennium Falcon blow-up.
We're going to be stepping our game up in 2020. What we into? Buttons.
We're going to get
hats, marbles, pogs.
Pins. Pogs. What we into? Let's bring pogs back.
Shit, I wish we could.
Hacky sacks. What we into? Hacky sacks.
All of it, bro. we're going big merch in 2020.
What else? I think that's it. What we into on Facebook? There's a whole page there. All of the news stuff. Most of these things that we talk
everything
about.
Everything that we talk. All of our weeks.
Up there.
You can find our weeks. Everything that we've ever discussed, you can find on our page. But yeah.
All right.
It's good to see you, man.
Good
Happy 2020, bro.
2020, now and forever. It's the future.
Well, my eyesight isn't gonna get any better, but here's hoping.
Here's hoping. Peace. Later, haters.
No one's gonna buy that. We're not starting off the year that way.
It's done.
We're not starting off the year.